Hello, beautiful. It's a beautiful morning in the city of Dallas, and today's conversation is titled How to Help Your Child Process or Deal with Shame and Low Self Esteem. One important thing that shame cannot accommodate or shame cannot deal with is compassion and empathy. Once empathy shows up, shame disappears because shame is nurtured by three things. SSJ. What do I mean by SSJ? The first is secrecy, the second is silence, the third is judgment. Once shame shows up, it is fed by secrecy, by silence, and by judgment. One of the most hated things, like shame despises empathy and compassion. And that is the reason why a lot of us walk with some flavor of shame or the other, because the people around us do not understand that secrecy, silence, and judgment are the nurturers of shame, while empathy is despised by shame. So when your child shows up to tell you anything, the first thing I would encourage you to do is, instead of shouting, screaming, or blaming, sometimes we try to pin the problem on someone. And if you're not careful, you pin that problem on your child, where you say, if you weren't there, it wouldn't have happened to you. If you had listened to me, if you had done this, if you had done that. This is not a time or a period to say if you had. This is a time to listen and validate whatever they are saying. So you are listening to understand, not listening to respond. You are listening as a mother or as a father or as an uncle, an auntie, whoever you are, or whatever role you occupy as a custodian. You are not listening to tackle them. You are not listening to respond. And you are definitely not listening to blame. And no matter what they say to you, you should let them know that I am sorry this happened to you. How would you want me to help? How would you want me to step in? How would you want me to resolve this with you? Or I'm sorry this happened. And you give them what I call the deep hug. Not just a 10 seconds encounter, no. You hold them in your embrace and you let them feel safe and sound. What will that do for you? That will help the child know that my custodian is safe to be with, my custodian is safe to speak to, my custodian gives me the emotional safety that I desire. This simple act is going to put shame to shame. This simple act is going to embarrass shame. This simple act is going to nullify secrecy, silence, and judgment. So, validation is one stone that you will use to kill everything tied to shame. Now, I know that some of us were not raised with validation, so we don't even know the importance of validation and how to validate people. I just gave you an example. No matter what your child says to you, let them know that you are sorry this happened to them or this is happening to them. Give them the warm hug and the deep embrace and the deep hug, and then try and talk through the issue. While you are discussing the issue, please ensure that you are focusing on the problem, not seeing them as the problem. You are attacking the problem, not attacking them. So you are focusing on, for example, somebody says to you, so I went to see someone, or I was hanging out with some friends and they tried to molest me, or they tried to just do something silly with me. The next thing is not, oh, I have told you to stop going there. I have told you. There's a time to discipline, and there's a time to love. There's a time to show compassion and empathy, and you can be firm but kind. So we don't have to shout at them. We don't have to curse them. We don't have to make them feel like shit, because shame is knocking and about to knock at the door and to mess up your child. And you don't want your child to be paying for therapy just because of the way you parented them, that you parented them with blame and shame and noise and curses. Let's parent with love. Parenting with love does not remove discipline. You can be very assertive and very loving and caring. So no matter what your child says to you, kiss them with empathy. Kiss them with compassion. The next thing you should do after validating their feeling is to remind them of who they are. No matter what happens in life, it is an action, it is a scenario, so they should not personalize it, they should not awfulize it. Failure, for example, is an event, but some of us have been trained to see failure as a person. I failed at an exam is different from I am a failure. I failed at a marriage or a relationship is different from I am a failure. Something happened to me is different from who I am. I am not my emotions, because emotions are transient. They are fluid. I can be unhappy now, and 5 minutes after I am extremely joyful. I just need to hear something or feel something or taste something, and my mood will be altered. So remind your child of who they are and enforce their identity on them. What that means is remind them that they were born leaders, they were born wise, they were born caring. Everything else is life trying to redefine them, to alter them, and to take away their identity. Life is about the battle of identity. If something happens to you and you permit it to shred you, then you are redefining yourself. So after validating them, enforce who they are. Because if you don't remind your child about who they are, people are going to tell them who they are not. Then the next thing and the final thing I would mention is, after validating, after enforcing, transform. What does transform mean? Transform means that whatever they told you, they are trying as much as possible to experience what I call a before and after experience. Before I spoke to mommy, daddy, auntie, uncle, or my custodian, this was how I was feeling. Now that you've had the conversation with you, your child must feel better. An experience with you must feel, taste, and be better. They must not leave your presence worse. They must not leave your presence feeling like shit. They must not leave your presence feeling stripped and shredded. Custodians are lovers, are, compassionate people. No matter what you want to say, your style of delivery is as important as the message. And trust me, you don't have to validate, enforce, and transform at the same time. I can tell you something, you validate me, maybe like an hour after, you can then engage me. So first of all, you validate me and you enforce at the same time. Validate and enforce at the same time. The final time may be like 30 minutes after maybe they've had a nap or grabbed snacks or something. You can now transform that. Oh, let's have a conversation. Let's gist about what you said earlier. So in the transformation, ensure that they leave feeling better. They must feel safe. Emotional safety and security is very important for your child. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to use your prosperous hands to subscribe, and please share this with your friends. I will be back to talk about how to help your child deal with low self-esteem. Namaste.